When you stop contacting a woman, the very first thing that happens isn't always visible on the surface, but it begins internally in her mind. She starts wondering why you pulled away. It's a shift that disrupts her emotional rhythm. Until now, she's been used to a certain flow of communication, your presence, your attention, your energy. Whether it was through calls, texts, or just the consistency of your availability, she's been unconsciously conditioned to expect that pattern. When that pattern breaks, the silence becomes louder than any words you could have said. What most men fail to understand is that human psychology, especially when it comes to attraction, thrives on uncertainty. The moment you pull back, you create space for that uncertainty to exist. And that space is powerful. It's within that silence that she begins to feel something she probably hasn't felt in a while, curiosity. She starts to wonder, what happened? Did I do something wrong? Did he lose interest? Has he found someone else? These questions aren't about ego alone. They stem from emotional dissonance. The mind is wired to seek equilibrium. When something that was once predictable suddenly stops, it triggers the need for answers. This is where your power as a man quietly reemerges. Because up until now, if you've been the one constantly reaching out, validating, or chasing, she's been in the position of emotional control. She's known you'll text first. She's known that no matter what she does, you'll still be there. That certainty made her comfortable. But comfort doesn't fuel attraction. Desire lives in uncertainty. When you remove that comfort, you reintroduce tension. And tension, when handled correctly, is the foundation of attraction. Now, this doesn't mean you should be manipulative or play games. It's not about pretending to ignore her just to get a reaction. It's about genuinely stepping back to reclaim your own sense of emotional independence. You stop contacting her not to punish her, but to protect your peace, to refocus your energy, and to allow her to feel what absence truly means. A woman can't miss you if you're always available. Space is what gives meaning to connection. The silence you create forces her to confront reality. She begins comparing the emotional experience of having you around versus not having you at all. Suddenly, your absence highlights what your presence brought into her life. She might not say it, but she feels it. She starts remembering small details, your tone of voice, your humor, the calm energy you brought into a conversation. Those details become magnified because the human mind tends to idealize what it no longer has easy access to. This is why silence is such a powerful communicator. When you stop reaching out, you say something much louder than words ever could. My energy is valuable. And the moment she senses that, everything changes. The power dynamic subtly shifts. The man who was once seeking approval becomes the man who commands respect. You no longer exist as an option she can take for granted. You become the mystery she's trying to figure out. There's also a philosophical truth here. Attraction isn't sustained by constant pursuit. It's sustained by polarity, the dance between presence and absence. Think of it like music. If there were no pauses between notes, if there were no silence between sounds, the melody would lose its beauty. The silence defines the rhythm. It's the same in relationships. Your decision to step back introduces rhythm and depth to the connection. It creates the emotional contrast that allows her to feel the difference between your presence and your absence. And during this time, something else happens. She starts to project meaning onto your silence. The mind hates uncertainty, so it fills in the blanks. If she was confident you'd always chase, your silence now challenges that assumption. She might interpret it as confidence, maturity, or strength. She might begin to wonder if you've simply moved on. Ironically, the very act of not seeking her validation increases your value in her eyes. It's counterintuitive, but it's rooted in deep psychological truth. People value what they fear losing. The key here is emotional self-control. Most men crumble during this stage. They panic when she doesn't reach out right away, thinking the silence means she's gone forever. But that panic only reveals emotional weakness. The man who understands his worth doesn't rush to fill the silence. He lets it breathe, because he knows that his absence will speak for him. He knows that attraction is not something you chase. It's something you allow to flow naturally when you stand grounded in your self-respect. And even if she doesn't come back, that silence still works in your favor. Because in choosing not to chase, you reestablish your emotional independence. You remind yourself that your happiness isn't dependent on anyone else's attention. You become centered again, calm again, powerful again. You move from seeking to leading. So when you stop contacting her and she starts wondering why, understand that this isn't the end of connection. It's the beginning of clarity. You've broken the pattern that was keeping you stuck. You've replaced neediness with self-respect. You've stopped talking just to be heard and started speaking through your actions. When you stop contacting a woman, one of the most profound shifts that happens, though you won't see it immediately, is that she begins to miss your energy and your presence. It doesn't happen overnight. It builds gradually like a subtle echo of emotional memory. At first, she may not even notice the silence. Maybe she tells herself she's fine, that she doesn't care, that she's moving on. But deep down, the human psyche doesn't work that way. When someone's been a consistent source of emotional stimulation, their absence leaves a gap. And the mind, by nature, hates a vacuum. It tries to fill it. What starts to fill that space is memory. She begins to replay the moments that once felt insignificant, but now feel meaningful in hindsight. The sound of your laugh, the way you listened without judgment, the calm you brought to her chaos. These aren't just nostalgic thoughts, they're emotional triggers. Each memory carries with it a feeling, and those feelings are what she begins to miss. Because at the end of the day, people don't miss people, they miss how those people made them feel. You see, your presence wasn't just physical, it was energetic. The masculine presence, when grounded and emotionally centered, brings something to a woman's life that she doesn't find easily elsewhere: stability. It's a quiet strength that communicates, I'm here, I've got this. When that disappears, even temporarily, it creates a subtle emotional imbalance. Whether she admits it or not, she feels it. Now, this missing doesn't come from weakness on her part. It's simply human nature. We crave connection, especially connection that feels genuine. The more authentic your presence was, the more she'll feel its absence. It's not about how much time you spent together. It's about the quality of your energy. If you were centered, grounded, and purposeful, you left a psychological imprint that can't be erased easily. This is why pulling back can be so powerful. When you stop reaching out, you stop feeding her with external validation, you allow the emotional energy between you two to settle. That's when she starts noticing that something feels off. Maybe she doesn't get that good morning text anymore. Maybe your usual phone call before doesn't happen. Maybe she sees your name missing from her notifications and it hits her in a quiet moment while scrolling, while driving, or just lying in bed staring at the ceiling. That's when the emotional awareness kicks in. And it's interesting because when a woman starts missing you, it rarely happens when she's busy or distracted. It happens in those still, reflective moments, the pauses in her day. That's when her subconscious takes over, when her emotions speak louder than her logic. She'll feel that void, that gentle ache that whispers something's missing. And that something is your energy. Here's the part most men don't realize: when you stop contacting her, you're not disappearing. You're giving her the gift of perspective. Because when you're always there, she doesn't have to think. She doesn't have to feel deeply. She doesn't have to question how much she values you. Your presence becomes predictable, and predictability, while comforting, kills appreciation. But when you step back, you allow contrast to enter the picture. She can now experience what life feels like without you, and that comparison can be powerful. She might scroll through your old messages or look at your pictures, or even catch herself typing a text and deleting it before sending. That hesitation, that tug of war between pride and longing, is the mind trying to reconcile the gap between what she had and what she's missing. It's not about manipulation. It's about emotional truth. She's realizing through absence that what she once took for granted had real emotional value. Now, the beauty of this process is that it doesn't require you to do anything. The more you chase, the less she feels the need to reflect. But the moment you stop, reflection becomes inevitable. Silence forces emotional honesty. It holds up a mirror to her feelings, and often those feelings surprise her. Maybe she thought she didn't care as much. Maybe she believed she could move on easily. But when she begins to miss your presence, that belief starts to crumble. That's when emotional realization begins to take root. And remember, what she misses most isn't necessarily the things you said or did. It's the emotional experience that came with being around you. The comfort of your tone, the feeling of being understood, the safety in your confidence. Those are intangible qualities that linger. They can't be replicated by a new conversation or a rebound relationship. That's the power of authentic masculine presence. It leaves an energetic signature that sticks. Philosophically speaking, this process mirrors a universal truth: we only appreciate light when we've experienced darkness. Absence gives presence its meaning. When she misses you, it's not a sign of dependency. It's a sign that your energy had weight, that your presence mattered, and that realization often becomes the turning point that reignites attraction. So when you stop contacting her, don't sit around waiting for her to call or text. Let her miss you. Let her sit in that emotional tension, because the moment she starts missing your energy, she begins to value it. The silence becomes your strongest form of communication. It reminds her of everything words can't express. And here's the deeper truth: the goal was never to make her miss you. The goal is to be the kind of man worth missing. When your energy carries peace, purpose, and strength, your absence naturally becomes felt. That's not manipulation, that's magnetism. At some point after you stop contacting her, she's going to test you. It's almost inevitable. Whether she's conscious of it or not, she'll want to know if you really meant it, if your silence comes from strength or from strategy. This is one of the most fascinating psychological dynamics in relationships because it's not about words, it's about emotional calibration. She wants to see how grounded you are. Are you truly centered, or are you just pretending to be? Are you really moving forward with your life, or are you secretly waiting for her reaction? These tests come in many forms. Maybe she posts something on social media that she knows will catch your attention, a selfie, a quote about relationships, or a story from a night out. Maybe she likes one of your old photos or views your story repeatedly. Or maybe she sends a small, harmless text, hey, or hope you're doing well. None of these actions are random, they're emotional probes. She's not just reaching out to reconnect, she's checking your temperature. She wants to know if you're still emotionally hooked. And here's the thing, this is where most men fail. They interpret these small gestures as signs of renewed interest and rush to respond, often with excitement, thinking they've won her back. But that excitement exposes emotional weakness. Because when a woman tests you, she's not looking for words, she's looking for emotional consistency. She wants to see if your energy has shifted, if you've actually evolved, or if you're still orbiting around her approval. Psychologically, these tests are rooted in feminine intuition. A woman naturally seeks emotional safety, and part of that safety comes from knowing that the man she's drawn to isn't easily shaken by emotion or circumstance. When you stop contacting her, she feels your absence, but before she allows herself to become vulnerable again, she needs to know if you're solid. That's why she'll test. She's not trying to play games, she's trying to find truth. This is where your emotional self, mastery is everything, you have to respond, not react. Most of the time, that means you don't respond at all. Silence, once again, becomes your strength. Because silence communicates something powerful. It shows that you're not chasing validation, that you're not emotionally dependent on her actions to feel valuable. It tells her, without words, that your life continues to move forward whether she's in it or not. That's the energy of abundance, not scarcity. If you do respond, it should come from calm, grounded energy, no eagerness, no overinvestment, no need to prove anything. That kind of composure is magnetic. It's the psychological equivalent of standing tall while the emotional storm passes around you. And that's exactly what a woman looks for, a man who can stay emotionally centered under pressure. When she tests you, she's really testing your boundaries. She wants to know what kind of man you are when you're not trying to impress her. Will you slip back into chasing? Will you beg for her attention again? Or will you maintain your sense of direction and purpose regardless of her behavior? Those answers reveal your level of emotional maturity. And the deeper truth is this: attraction and respect go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. When you respond emotionally to every little test she throws your way, you lose her respect. But when you remain composed, when you show her that you can care about her without needing her, you become the man she starts to admire again, because admiration is born out of discipline, not desire. Now, philosophically, there's something very profound happening here. In relationships, we often mistake emotional reactivity for connection. But real connection doesn't come from constant interaction. It comes from aligned energy. When you're grounded in your sense of self, you no longer seek reassurance. You project confidence. You become a source of stability instead of a seeker of it. And that shift transforms how a woman feels around you. This is why tests are valuable. They reveal truth on both sides. Her test shows whether her attraction is still alive, and your response shows whether you've truly stepped into your masculine power. If you meet her tests with emotional control and calm energy, she'll feel your strength. She might not say it, but it impacts her deeply. It tells her, this man is different. He's not desperate for my attention. He's focused, composed, and sure of himself. That energy is rare, and rare energy is attractive. Over time, if she's genuinely interested, her tests will soften. She'll begin to reach out more sincerely, less from curiosity and more from genuine desire to reconnect. That's when the dynamic shifts again, because she's no longer trying to provoke a reaction. She's seeking reconnection with the version of you that's grounded and self-assured. But if you fail the test, if you break the silence too soon or fall back into old patterns, you teach her something else. You teach her that your silence was a strategy, not a reflection of true strength. You show her that your power was conditional, that it existed only as long as she was quiet. And once she learns that, the respect is gone. That's why patience and discipline are everything here. A woman's tests aren't meant to discourage you. They're meant to refine you. They push you to embody the masculine energy she can truly trust and respect. When you master your emotions and stay calm through these moments, you're not just passing her test, you're passing life's test. Because at the end of the day, attraction isn't about games, it's about energy alignment. And the only men who attract deeply, who hold a woman's respect long term, are those who lead with strength, not neediness. So when she tests you, don't see it as an obstacle. See it as confirmation that your silence has made an impact. You've shifted the dynamic. She feels it. And now she's checking to see if it's real. When you stop contacting a woman, something interesting begins to unfold beneath the surface. At first, she might try to convince herself that it doesn't bother her. She'll distract herself, keep busy, tell her friends she's fine. But the truth is, silence from a man she once felt connected to creates a ripple in her mind. It triggers curiosity. She begins to wonder what's happening in your world without her in it. That curiosity starts small, but it grows with time, and it's powerful because it marks the moment when the emotional balance shifts. See, as long as you were the one doing all the pursuing, she didn't need to wonder. You were predictable, accessible, and emotionally transparent. There was no mystery left. She knew where she stood with you. But when you stop contacting her, that certainty disappears. Suddenly, she doesn't know what you're thinking, what you're doing, or even if you still care, and the feminine mind doesn't sit comfortably with uncertainty. It craves emotional closure. When that closure doesn't come, curiosity becomes a slow, burning desire. This is why silence often does what words can't. It forces her to think. She starts to notice the absence of your presence in small ways, your name not showing up on her phone, no good morning messages, no playful check-ins. And that absence draws her attention to one simple but powerful question: what's he up to? That question alone can keep her mind busy for days. She'll begin to imagine scenarios, analyze your behavior, and look for signs that might reveal how you're feeling. She might check your social media, ask mutual friends about you, or casually bring your name up in conversation. It's not just about missing you. It's about trying to regain emotional control. When she doesn't know what's happening in your world, she starts to realize she's no longer the center of it. That realization stings, but it also reignites attraction. The psychology behind this is simple but deep. People value what they have to wonder about. Curiosity is the emotional bridge between interest and desire. The less she knows, the more her imagination fills in the blanks. And the mind always amplifies what it can't easily access. Your silence, your absence, becomes a canvas where her emotions start painting stories. She might start thinking about the possibility of you moving on. She might wonder if another woman is giving you attention. And while she may try to brush those thoughts off, the emotional discomfort they create makes her more aware of how much she still cares. This is also the point where your composure becomes crucial, because the moment she senses that you've detached, not in bitterness, but in calm confidence, she begins to see you differently. There's a subtle psychological power in being at peace with her absence. When you stop needing her to respond or validate you, your energy changes. You project independence. That independence is deeply attractive because it communicates that you're a man with purpose, not a man defined by a relationship. From a philosophical standpoint, this stage represents the return of masculine polarity. In a healthy dynamic, the man doesn't chase validation, he embodies purpose. The woman feels drawn to that energy, not because he demands attention, but because his self-assurance commands it naturally. When you stop contacting her, you're no longer giving away your energy for free, you're reclaiming it. And that reclamation of energy, your time, focus, and emotional strength is what reawakens her curiosity. You'll often notice small shifts once this happens. Maybe she views your story but doesn't reply. Maybe she likes an old picture or sends a subtle text out of nowhere. These are breadcrumbs, small, deliberate attempts to gauge your reaction. They're not random. She's checking to see if you're still emotionally available, if the door's still open. But here's the key. You don't need to rush through that door. You let her curiosity do the work. Because curiosity leads to investment, and investment leads to pursuit. And this is where most men sabotage themselves. The moment she shows even the slightest interest, they rush back in, over-explaining, over-texting, trying to prove their worth again. But what they don't realize is this reaction kills the very tension that was rebuilding attraction. A woman's curiosity thrives in mystery. The moment you explain yourself too much, the mystery dies. What keeps her interested isn't knowing everything about you. It's feeling like she doesn't have full access to you anymore. It's important to understand that your silence is not punishment. It's presence through absence. It communicates that you're not waiting around, that you're living your life, that your happiness doesn't depend on whether she reaches out or not. That kind of detachment radiates strength, and women can feel that energy even without direct communication. It's subtle but powerful. The deeper philosophy here is that attraction isn't built through possession. It's built through space. Love breathes in distance. When you stop trying to control outcomes and simply let go, you create the emotional space where genuine desire can return. She can't chase you if you never stop moving forward. So when she becomes curious, when she starts wondering what you're doing, who you're seeing, and whether you've moved on, don't break that moment by rushing in to reassure her. Let her sit in that uncertainty. Let her curiosity grow into realization. Because the moment she truly wonders about you, she begins to value you again. And that's the irony of detachment. The less you try to be noticed, the more noticeable you become. The less you reach out, the more your presence lingers in her mind, because emotional curiosity is like gravity. It pulls her back toward the source of the feeling she's trying to understand. When you stop contacting a woman, one of two things will happen. She'll either match your silence with her own, or she'll begin to match your energy. This is the stage where things start to reveal themselves. The emotional dynamic between you shifts from you doing all the giving to her starting to mirror your behavior. And this mirroring isn't random, it's a psychological response to the change in how she perceives your value. When you stop reaching out, you change the rhythm of interaction. You move from chasing to leading, and she begins to follow that lead. At first, that silence creates emotional tension. She feels the imbalance. She might even feel a sense of loss or uncertainty, especially if she was used to you always initiating contact. But as that silence lingers, something deeper happens. She starts to feel compelled to reestablish balance. Human beings by nature seek equilibrium. In relationships, that equilibrium often comes through reciprocity. When one person pulls back, the other instinctively begins to move forward. This is the beginning of her matching your energy. Maybe she sends a casual text, "Hey, how have you been?" Maybe she watches your story, leaves a comment, or reacts to a post. These gestures might seem small, but they're significant. They represent her emotional investment starting to remerge. The woman who once took your presence for granted is now re-engaging, not because you pressured her to, but because your absence reminded her what it felt like to have your energy in her life. The key here is to recognize that attraction isn't built through effort, it's built through polarity. The masculine energy leads by being grounded, calm, and purposeful. The feminine energy responds to that leadership, not to words or tactics, but to how the man feels. When you pull back with strength, when you stop over communicating and start focusing on your own life, she begins to feel that shift energetically. She senses that your world no longer revolves around her, and that realization stirs something deep within her. It reignites respect. Respect is the foundation of attraction. Without it, connection fades. When a woman senses that a man has self-control, that he can maintain emotional composure, even in uncertainty, she naturally feels drawn to him again. Your discipline communicates something words never could, that your peace doesn't depend on her. And ironically, that's when she starts to want your attention more. This isn't about playing games. It's about balance. You're teaching her through your actions how to meet you halfway. In every healthy relationship, effort must be mutual. When you stop doing 100% of the emotional work, you give her the opportunity to step into her role. You create the space where she can express interest again, where she can initiate, where she can show you through action how much she values you. And that's critical because people only truly value what they invest in. From a psychological perspective, this stage also tests her level of genuine interest. The woman who doesn't care will disappear completely. The woman who truly values you will start matching your energy naturally. She'll check in. She'll try to reconnect. She'll make herself available. You'll notice subtle changes in her tone and behavior, more warmth, more vulnerability, more consistency. These aren't coincidences, they're signals of genuine emotional engagement. And this is where most men make a mistake. They rush to reestablish the old dynamic. They interpret her small efforts as an invitation to resume chasing. But if you do that, you destroy the polarity you've just created. The key is to stay steady, match her energy, but don't exceed it. If she reaches out, respond calmly. If she invests, reciprocate, but never overcompensate. By doing that, you maintain balance, and balance is what keeps attraction alive. This process also has a deeper philosophical layer. When you stop chasing and start embodying calm, masculine presence, you're not just affecting her behavior, you're reshaping the entire energetic dynamic. You're reminding both of you that love, connection, and attraction flow best when both individuals are operating from self-respect. Real love doesn't grow from need, it grows from choice. And a woman can only choose you authentically when she's free to come toward you without pressure or pursuit. This is why letting her match your energy is so powerful. You're allowing her to step into the relationship from a place of desire, not obligation. You're giving her space to miss you, to reflect, and to decide. And when she decides to invest again, that decision carries weight. It's real. It's not born out of manipulation or guilt. It's born out of emotional clarity. You might notice that when she starts matching your energy, her communication feels different. It's more genuine, more intentional. She's not just filling silence, she's reaching out because she feels something again. That's the magic of detachment. It allows attraction to breathe, and it lets her rediscover her own reasons for wanting you. If you stay centered through this process, something even deeper happens. You start to become the emotional leader of the connection. Not by dominance or control, but by stability. You become the calm in the storm, the presence that she feels safe and drawn to. That's the essence of masculine energy. It doesn't chase, it draws in. And remember, even if she doesn't match your energy right away, your discipline still pays off, because what matters most isn't her reaction, it's your growth. By stepping back, you're teaching yourself to operate from strength rather than fear. You're learning that true connection can't be forced. It must be allowed to unfold naturally. So if she starts matching your energy, let her. If she doesn't, let that truth guide you toward peace. Because either way, you win. You've reclaimed your power. You've stopped living reactively and started leading your life with purpose.